need to figure out how to have a sales conversation. And after all that, nobody got the results. So then I had to re-courage up and go back and sell that thing again that I learned how to sell and then help people get results, right? So I share this with you because there's a great book called Blitz Scaling. There's a great book called Blitz Scaling. You should write it down. For no other reason than half of what's written in that book will not be relatable to people. What will be relatable is getting your mind to unhook from middle class or scarcity thinking. And what I mean by that is scarcity and middle class thinking want to get it all right. Like, you don't want to drop people. You don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to go into a conversation and not be able to deliver. Am I right or am I right? Right? Like, it's like, go in the comment section and communicate with me as we're going, because I want to know that I'm hitting the mark. So it's like, when you're building, you have these natural fears. Like, what if I build something that doesn't work? What if I sell something I can't deliver on? Do you know how many people have come to me with that conversation? What if I sell this and I can't deliver? It's like, that is an honorable heart. But if you read a book like Blitz Scaling, you'll realize that the people who scale the fastest, does anybody want speed? Put S in the chat. Anybody want speed of growth? Put S in the chat. Okay, so you cannot protect yourself or try and protect other people and succeed with speed. It's impossible. It's impossible. Go on a boat with a little child and see if you're going to enjoy the boat ride. You're not. You're going to be protecting that child the entire time that they don't fall overboard and drown, right? Like, you cannot grow a business with the mentality of, I'm going to make sure everything is okay. I'm going to have absolute certainty, especially if you're in a position where you haven't launched a product yet. You do not have certainty that it's going to work. So when I started, I built a list. I learned how to write 2 emails a week. One of them would be giving and create value for someone, tell them how I manage my mind, how I, stay fit, how-tos is just an easy way to do it. And then the next email was an opportunity where I outlined a problem somebody would have and then gave them an opportunity to solve that problem with me. If you wrote that down, you just got $1 million advice. That's all I did. I did an interview series. I wrote 2 emails a week. One email was to just provide some value and practice, right? Provide some value and practice. And then the next email was to outline a problem somebody might have specifically, and then offer an opportunity to get a phone call with me to solve that problem. That was the whole strategy. And that strategy generated up to $3 million a year before I ever paid any advertisement, before I got good at speaking on stages, nothing. Like, that's all I did. Okay. And then I hired 2 clients to be part of my sales team who were raving fans and got great results. Can I tell you that was 15 years ago? And those two clients that became sales team are still working with me today, and they're both coaches. One's a trainer and one's a coach. Okay, so now remember this. Not everybody is going to grow with you through the seasons. Not everybody is going to grow with you through it's very rare that I see people that grow with you through the entire growth of a business, because the business changes. So this is not on my 3 things I want to talk about today, but I read a book called Blitz Scaling. And that book was all about just really, really large companies that I had no relatability to. Like, I have no relatability to Coca-Cola. It's not a coaching company. My husband might, because he has a hydration product, right? It was just these companies that I had no relatability to. But what I was gaining value out of Blitz Scaling was the mindset behind these entrepreneurs. And they would launch things before they were ready. When have you heard that before? You've heard it a million times. But they would go all in. Like, they would go and they would sell something and the entire customer service would fall apart. Like, nobody's getting responses back. Do you know when moments like that have happened in my business? You know what happens? People get mad. They get mad, right? And as they get mad, you got to have the thick skin to realize that this is actually a part of success. So my point number 1 today, and I'm going to give you 3 points that will help grow any business. My point number one is I have a mosquito that's trying to get me. My point, so if you see me do this, it's because there is a mosquito that is coming for me and I can't have it take my blood. And so point number one is that I am very clear that most people don't know the trajectory to success, and they think that the things that are going wrong should suggest that they should stop or slow down. Okay, so if you have a mindset issue, I recommend you get the audiobook or the written book, take a pen and outline things that stand out, and do a 75 hard moment with yourself, which is 75 hard is a program that you have to read 10 pages a day. What if you just said for the next 2 months, you're going to read 10 pages a day of something? Not fantasy, but something like that. Your mindset will change, and nobody will be able to change your mindset back, because what will happen is you will have credibility on these people walk the road before you, and they actually created an ultimate level of success. Okay. So what's my point to that? Things always come together. If you don't quit, things always come together. So now you have to analyze what causes you to quit. And that's a great come to Jesus conversation for you to have with yourself. But I'll tell you the number one thing that causes people to quit. I actually have a pocket coaching coming out either next week or the week after. I recorded it this morning about my friend Chris and Raquel. Chris and Raquel look like they have the perfect life, and honestly they do. But they've worked very hard to create that great marriage, great bodies, a lot of fun. This is a couple that like hires salsa dancers, and instead of just salsa dancing together, they bring their friends together. Right? Like they expand joy, they expand fun, they expand community. So one of the things that Chris has is a trigger. And it's the only trigger I've ever found with him. And if you talk negatively about something, now he perceives anything critical as negative. That's my perception of him. Okay, so I'll give you an example. My church in Puerto Rico does not have a live preacher. And just because people in this community also watch this live, I'm not going to say the other thing that I think needs to shift in our church, right? And so I said to Chris, I said the other thing, but I didn't say it from what I thought was critical. And this is connected to mindset. Like it's very hard for you to pull point number one, which is things always come together, if your mindset is very challenged. Because you have to believe it. You have to see enough proof of people falling apart and landing on their feet, businesses not working and then come together. If you listen to Alex Hermosi, Russ Ruffino, Russell Brunson, myself, Rachel Hollis, anybody, right? I mean, you look at, Apple fired their CEO and then brought him back, and then he died, and Apple's a very different product now. Right? You look at these great entrepreneurs, and they have moments where they were let go, or they failed miserably, but they always ended up back on their feet. I'm convinced that we stay stuck too long because we commiserate in the problem. And the solution doesn't come at looking at the problem. The solution comes at what am I actually committed to? What am I committed to today? What am I committed to this week? And solve the biggest problem. If it's money, then stop focusing on making your product better. Focus on selling. And then your customers or clients will tell you how to make the product better. Trust me, they will tell you. You ask them what's missing, they will tell you. And you can make the product better. It's much better to create a product from a customer base or buyer's base than it is for you to create the product out of your head. Because value comes from assessed needs, what people need. Okay. So my husband has a hydration product. He would love to keep making the product better. If you listen to him, he will tell you all the goodness about that product. Do you know why the number one reason why people buy hydration products or drinks online? Taste. It's taste. That's the data. So I want you to ask yourself right now, are you focusing on the data, or are you focusing on what you believe to be true? So hold on one sec, you guys. Okay, So are you focusing on the data or are you focusing on what you think to be true? Maybe something's not selling, not because you don't have the right product, maybe you're selling the wrong point. If my husband sells the point about nutrition and, all the vitamins that are in it, then what happens? Nobody buys it. But if he sells taste and how good it is, people will buy it. That's not my husband's value system. It's his buyer's value system. Okay? So things always come together if you don't quit. I don't know one success story that doesn't have moments like I was down to my last dollar. I borrowed cash. I personally sold my car. I didn't pay myself. So if you're in a moment like that, I just want to encourage you, congratulations. Don't quit. Okay? Because everybody else quits because they think it's wrong. And it is actually refining your character so you're strong enough to manage and receive the millions or the hundreds of thousands. When you're making 500,000 a year, a million a year, 3 million a year, there's people on here that are going to make 10 million a year. There's people watching this. In fact, what do you think? What do you think you're called to? What's the dollar amount? Don't worry about anybody judging you on this. There is a calling that most of you have that you don't even know why, but you're like, I'm supposed to make that next. Like I'm supposed to ultimately, like we have a friend here who's financially very, very wealthy. And he said to my husband the other day, he goes, it's so bizarre. I just have a calling to be a billionaire. He goes, so I'm going to just do that. Like that's how casual he talks. My husband told me we had a date breakfast this morning. I was like, that's so funny. Like, it's just like, I just knew I was supposed to be a millionaire. I knew I was supposed to be a multi-millionaire. I just knew. I couldn't explain it. Like I knew I was supposed to be a mom, but I never had an instinct to be a mom. You know that? Like I never felt like even going through the miscarriages with baby number two, they were challenging. But people would come to me and say, I know what it's like trying to have another baby. I'm like, I don't have any of that. For whatever reason, if I have a calling, I'm just honorable to the calling and obedient. And that's always worked out. And then when I get there, then I receive this like, wow, like I can't imagine my life without this. And so how many of you guys are called? What's the income bracket you're called to? Go in the chat and let me know. What's the income bracket you're called to? And they're like, there's a power to just saying it. You know what I mean? Even if it's wild. What's the income bracket you're called to that you're like, I just know I'm supposed to create this. Like, I don't know why, or maybe you do know why, but I just know I'm supposed to create this. Okay, so you really do need to become obsessive about that. Because although law of attraction is pulled out of the Bible, it's not the full picture. Okay, so you can't just go, I want it, I'm supposed to have it, let me visualize it. It doesn't work like that. That's what creates vision so you know what the end looks like. That has nothing to do with the action to create the result. And the action to create the result comes down to you enrolling yourself that is a calling on your life. And it's not about, I can't do it, it's going to be ridiculously hard to do it. The truth is you'd never do it if you knew how much work it was going to be. It's going to be a lot of work. And here's what's wild. When you turn around and look back, you realize that actually wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, but the journey was so hard. Yeah, because you're emotionally battling what you think is real or is part of the journey. You're battling that. You're like, please take away this hardship. It's like, no. You need to be able to walk through that hardship and say, you know what? I need cash. I told somebody reached out to me and said, she might even be on here. I don't know. But she said, I really want to be in your program. And I said, go through your phone and look and see if there's somebody you can borrow 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 from. Get 4 months or 5 months of payments and pay them back 20% in a year. She goes, there's just nobody in my circle. And here's what my response was to her. I said, if you did the exercise, did you go all the way to Z on your calendar and your phone? Because I've talked to 20-year-olds that have found people and their circle is 20. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they've got extra $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, most of them hanging around, unless they're hanging out in digital marketing conferences, which I will tell you my son will be and already is, right? So his parameters are different. And so nobody can think it. And so I said, did you do that? Because if you didn't, I don't think you should hire me. And I said, or even try, because you're not being coachable. Like, you have to trust the coach. John Maxwell wrote a book called Speed of Trust. Speed of Trust is an amazing, or Covey wrote it, sorry. Speed of Trust is amazing concept because it works, and it's a success metric, which is your ability to trust means that you've attached your belief system to that result and you can go all in. Okay, it's called the Speed of Trust. And so I literally said to her, why would you say that, Shanda? You're stopping a sale. Because I want her to be safe. If she wants to be safe, I want her to be safe. And if she's going to know better than the coaching and won't take the simple coaching of looking through her phone all the way to Z, if there's somebody that could lend her 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, then the next step is the obedience step of action, which is just send a message, right? It's like, hey, Christina Price, any chance you want to make 20% on your money in the next 12 months? Now, Christina Price messages me back and says, oh my gosh, I'd love to, but I have no money. Okay, well then that's done, because her belief system is there. But what if Christina Price just came into $5,000? And by the way, that happened to me with a girl named Kimiko. And Kimiko's broke. She got an inheritance, $5,000. She gave me that $5,000. I never would have guessed, because I wasn't that good of a person. But when she looked at me, she believed that my hardship was going to end and that I just needed somebody to believe in me. And I cried when she gave me that $5,000. But that changed everything for me. Okay, that's happened multiple times in my life. She's the only one who gave it to me. The other ones I paid 20 or 30% interest on in a year. Okay, and so do you understand what I'm saying now? Yes. So now I want you to write yourself a coach yourself to success moment. What advice do you need to start keeping? What's the thing that you need to, what's the advice that's being spoken over your life or has been for a while? Maybe it sounds like criticism. What's the piece of advice that you need to take as feedback and not be defensive about, or think you know, or assume that it won't work out? Write that down. So the first step is everything will come together. It always does. Just if you quit, then you just assume the life you have now, or even worse. Okay, so it's either going to stay the same or it's going to be worse. Step number 2 is read the gap. What do I mean by read the gap? Okay, so read the gap is look for the area you feel like you have a gap in. So one of the worst things I did for many, many years is I only read spiritual books. Now, I know there's some of you guys here right now. Okay, the reason why I only read spiritual books, and I don't mean the Bible, I mean, I only read authors that were spiritual book. I love myself some Wayne Dyer. He's a good guy, right? Or was a good guy. And there was many moments that helped me. When you see it, you'll believe it, stuff like that. Like, it helped me, but it never moved the dial fast, because it's completely self-reflected on me, on you. So anything that is completely self-reflected on you for long periods of time is not a good fascination. What's a great fascination is getting fascinated on other people, because it's other people that will give you the feedback that needs to be changed to grow a business. So reading the gap, I wrote down a couple of things for you. So number 1, the next book that I am about to read is Today Matters by John Maxwell. And the reason why I'm going to read that book is it's about really maximizing your results and impacting other people every single day. So that has crazy urgency to it. Okay, my word for 2025 is discipline. What's yours? Go in the chat and let me know. If you don't have one, pick one. What is your word for 2025, right? What is it? Go in the chat, let me know. Collaboration, action, commitment, finish, implement, urgency, succeed. Now look at how quick you guys are on these words. Like that's your word. You got to put it up on the wall because you'll forget it in the next month or two. You'll probably forget it this week and you won't be living into that contract, right? That's a spiritual contract for you right now. You dominate that. You get your integrity, Donna. You get your discipline to monetization. So it's discipline. You figure out how to take action, Allison, on everything. That means that you become dominant about this. Like you become obsessed. So it's like, if action is my word and I get up in the morning, like my son got up this morning and he said he's really committed to stacking his wins first thing in the morning. He goes, I don't know why he hates to shower, but he hates to shower. He goes, Mom, I don't want to shower this morning, but I know I got to stack a win. I go, well, Daddy and I are going for breakfast at the beach club. Do you want to come? He goes, I do, but I gotta keep my word to myself. So bring me an avocado toast back. We're like, okay. He gets in the shower, he stacks his win, he does his own little hair, and it's like, I love that, right? But he's crushing it with his homeschool teacher right now. I looked at her around the corner, I was, how's it going? She's like, 10 out of 10. And I'm like, that's because he kept his word to himself. He took action on the thing he didn't want to do. So if your word is action, then you get what that obsession looks like. The obsession is catch yourself every time you try and do inaction. You do the opposite. Anybody into God here? Put a G in the chat. Okay, so here's the thing. The devil doesn't have authority over your life. He has the ability to influence your mind, which then changes what you think. So every time you have a negative thought or a scarcity thought, you must either verbally say or physically do the opposite. So I don't feel like going to the gym. Go to the gym. Right? Like, gosh, I don't feel like being nice to my mother-in-law right now. Be nice. There's a miracle coming. Because he doesn't hover over your life when you've got nothing going on. He hovers over your life and gives you all these uncertainty thoughts and confusion only when you're about to break through. And you can usually look around you when you're about to break through, there's people around you winning. And you can see them winning and you can taste it, you can feel it, but you feel confused about why can't I break through it? You need to read the gap. Part of what will help you dominate those thoughts is to feed your mind something that will, now, this is what I mean by like, I fed my mind spiritual stuff from Authors Forever. It was all about my problems, how to solve my problems, how to think about my problems, how to manipulate the world, which I get there's a power to that at sometimes, manipulate the manifestation, but then the manifestation would be pulled right away. So I stopped and I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So then I discovered Read the Gap. So right now, I know at this level of my game that if I would have known this at the very beginning, I would have stopped over obsessing about myself and I would have focused on leadership. How do I lead other people? How do I love them better? How do I live the fruits of the Spirit? How do I lead teams? How do I lead a virtual assistant? How do I lead myself to be more productive? How do I get myself to have a bigger vision? I would have thought that's all leadership. It's not spiritual, it's leadership. Okay. And so today Matters from John Maxwell. I wish I would have read that day when I opened my business. So that's one of my next books. Next thing is reading billionaires' biographies. This is a tough one for some of us, especially if we don't have a vision to be a billionaire, because it's not relatable. What if you read in the gap something that maybe felt like it wasn't relatable for you because it's too big or too far past you? And what if you got one concept out of that book, because you will, that will change everything for you? Because you gotta quantum leap your community. Do you know what I mean by that? Like whoever's kind of in your life, that is your standard. So you've got to get into other people's communities by reading a biography, which is like having a friend in your life that is playing at a big level, because you will adopt some of that thinking. Okay, so go look billionaires, go look up billionaires, go like literally just put billionaire biographies and look it up, get it on audio. You don't have to get every second of it. You need to be listening to it while you go for a walk, or like make a commitment to yourself. You're going to walk for 15 minutes every day, right? 7 minutes out, 7 minutes back, 14 minutes, like, and listen to the biography and notice what you're noticing about the way that they lead themselves. It's not as much about their results, it's about the story behind the result. That's how you start to get indoctrinated in to a new community. So you don't have to want to be a billionaire, but do you think that they know how to have a better life or an easier way at growing a business? Of course they do, right? Of course they do. And so I challenge you to go find a biography of a billionaire. Literally, I challenge you to do that today. And to go online, you can tag me on Instagram. You can go on the Hardcore Business Facebook page and put it underneath this live that's streaming and be like, billionaire biography, here's the book. Put a link to the book if you want, or put the title to the book. What do you think that's going to do? Well, that's leadership. You're raising up the people who watch Shanda On Demand. You're raising up me. You're contributing to me. You're contributing to other people. Well, leaders who contribute and don't win alone, they skyrocket results. They completely blow through problems way faster than people who are inundated on noticing all their problems. There's a great story in the scriptures that talk about Paul. And he says that when he went and preached, so call it do workshops, right? Like when he went and did workshops about God, he preached, right? Different cities. He was like, we need to go back now. We need to follow up with all those people we preached to, or we did a teaching to. And we need to go encourage them now. How many guys realize that we don't necessarily talk to someone, whether it's someone we love or a customer or client, we don't necessarily talk to people and then go back and encourage them. Leaders go back and encourage. So if you take on this coaching, who's taking it on right now? Put yes or no. Who's going to go find a billionaire? A billionaire. I want you to do it too, because I want to go read your posts on my Hardcore Business Facebook page. Hardcore Business Facebook page. Go back to this live. You'll see me wearing this shirt and this little hat I bought today on my date breakfast. And literally write the word billionaire biography and put the story underneath it. If you want to be really giving, tell us why you chose it, because that influences us. We might be having the same thing in our lives that you're having, and I influenced it because I need to do this, and I felt like this story really inspired me about this, so I'm going to read it, right? So who's willing to do that? Yes. Be like the story of Paul. Go back and encourage people watching. Don't just go win yourself. And for God's sakes, this will hold you accountable to do it. Don't just watch this live and take the coaching. I told the girl to look through her phone and look to see if she has somebody to borrow money from. And she said, I don't have anybody in my circle. Did you do the work? Did you take the 2 minutes to flip through and see if there's somebody? If you didn't, then you're not coachable. You seem to know better. And if you know better, then you're just going to keep getting the results that you know, instead of opening up to something bigger. So go pick a book that a billionaire wrote. Now that's not go pick a book that a millionaire wrote. We're trying to change our character to literally reflect the thinking that creates the income that changes the world. If somebody can start a business with no money and 5 years later sell it for epic, life-changing legacy money and change their entire family, why not you? Because you're not thinking like that. You're thinking like everybody in your ecosystem. So what if reading those type of books changed a new way of being for you? Here's the last thing, is literally saying a mantra that you believe. And I'm going to break this up for you. So I built my entire business walking around with the belief system that money was easy to make. And the reason why I had that belief system is once I built my list and I sent out 2 emails a week and I was able to sell to that list, that's why I had the courage to make big investments that I couldn't, quote unquote, afford. My documentary that I spent $80,000 in went nowhere. I'm not even sure I promoted it longer than a week. Okay, because I put it in the wrong step. What I needed to do is learn how to launch a book or learn how to do an online launch before I did the documentary, because that's what the documentary needed. Just doing a documentary doesn't mean anybody's going to come see it, right? You need how to generate the campaign to make that happen. I didn't have those skills at the time. The skills I had was build a list, send 2 emails a week, and enroll and make over 7 figures a year. And so 7 figures a year doesn't mean I kept 7 figures a year. I had taxes on that living in California. I had living expenses around that. I had a virtual assistant. I had a coach. I did not cross $1 million solo by myself without a coach. That didn't happen. Okay. I was getting coached. And so there were costs to my life: taxes, coach, virtual assistant, lifestyle, all of that. So I didn't have $80,000 sitting in the bank, but I knew how to generate it. So I could put it on payments and I generated it. Okay. So when I tell you, pick a mantra that is where you're going, but you believe, you need to have proof that it's true. I'm not a big fan on saying affirmations and things like that to convince your mind. You're trying to use magic, and magic has no roots. Okay, if you know anything about energy, magic does not have roots, it has deception. And so, which means it just doesn't have roots. I'm not saying it's bad or good or whatever, it just doesn't have roots. And so roots are what keep a tree in when the storm hits, right? You don't want to just fly away. Okay. So when I would say money is easy to make, it's because I knew how to generate a certain amount of money because I'd walked through the system we teach and it was stable. And so I knew how to do just 2 or 3 things that would generate income. So I knew that. And then I had people around me that I saw were making much more money than me. And I was like, money is not easy to make, or not hard to make. It really just comes down to like having a bigger vision. So what's the mantra that would support your life that you believe in? It may or may not be something you've accomplished yet, but you have proof that it's real, right? Like I have proof that you can create $1 billion business starting with $5,000. I have proof that you don't have to be smart to make a lot of money. There's a guy in our community that just said the other day to my husband, he said, it's wild how many people are just not that smart who have made just insane amounts of money. He literally said, my son plays with his son. And he said, I just always thought you had to be smart. I spent my whole life trying to get smart to be able to create the income that I created for my family. And what I've now realized is you don't have to be smart to make a lot of money. And so, and I've seen that too. I've seen people that I'm like, I have no idea, like you can't even keep your life organized. Like you don't have to be neat and tidy, even though some of you guys get mad at people in your life because you're like, you're not organized, you're a hot mess. I know a billionaire right now I'm thinking about who's a hot mess. Okay, complete hot mess, complete mess. Right? But when he believes in something, he goes all in on that one thing and he builds it. And he has the network of people to build it. Okay, but I don't have the network, Shanda. Okay, but that's you still comparing, thinking like, I need that network to be able to create that result. Or you don't need to have a morning routine. You don't need to be smart. You don't need to have parents that crushed it. None of that's true. It's things that we say to justify being lazy. Okay, so what is the mantra that you need to say to yourself that would really serve you and keep you grounded? So if you can't think of one, a great one is just complete what I start. People who complete what they start, they succeed. I have seen that over and over and over again, which is why when I was growing, I used to be a great starter and a poor finisher. And so I started to realize, well, I don't know anybody successful that didn't complete. And what that means is that there's many times that people I saw create epic results in their life. They didn't want to do it anymore. They didn't feel like finishing that book, right? That book doesn't resonate with me. I'm just going to stop reading it. That is a sign of someone who typically fails. You have to have a standard of I complete what I start. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm just going to complete what I start. Whether I feel attached to it anymore, whether it resonates with me anymore, whether it's good or bad, whatever, I complete what I start. And so if you can complete what you start, and that becomes the mantra in your life, if you just do that for a year, You put it up on the wall, you put it up on your bathroom mirror. Like, I swear, my house team that takes care of our life, and our homeschool teachers, and I promise you, they know all my goals. They know them all because they're all on the walls on stickies all over my whole house. Sometimes I get a little embarrassed when we have friends over because I'm like, oh my gosh. But you know what my oh my gosh is? Is I wonder if my goals are too small. They used to be, what if they're too big? Who am I? And now I'm like, gosh, I wonder if my goals are too small because of the company that I keep. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about on Shanda On Demand today. I wanted to, number one is that things always come together. They always do. Whatever you're facing right now, you have to be able to figure out how to solve that. Because if you were to think, if I solve this one problem, it will give me the wisdom to grow the wealth that I am called to create. Okay, like, I have to be able to solve this. So now you can get intimate. You can time block a few hours and just put a clock for 2 hours. Say, I'm not leaving this room until I figure out how to solve that problem. Okay, time block the problem and just literally come up with ways to solve it, and then pick the best one and move into action. Number two is read the gap. You know what we've all said that, or some of us said that we would go back on the hardcore. In fact, Keith, will you put in the chat, so many people are watching this on Hardcore Business Facebook page right now, but in the chat here for the people on Zoom, if you can put my Hardcore Business Facebook page on here so that people can click it before we get off and go over there. And like, you could put your billionaire book and why you're choosing that one, right? Let's raise up together. But read the gap, right? My next book is going to be John Maxwell's Today Matters, and then a billionaire's biography. Okay, I might pick one of yours. And then number three is, what's the mantra that's going to carry you through this year? At the very least, if you can't think of one, really realize that, have belief in the fact that if you complete what you start, you will manage your emotions, because you just have a standard that you're completing what you start. That helped me become a phenomenal finisher. In the chat right now for you guys on Zoom with me, there's my Facebook page where we're streaming this live right now. You can click that and you can go put your book on there, okay? The one that I built with a lot was just really saying to myself, you know what, Jenna, money is easy to make. 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 I don't say that anymore, but I will tell you, there was a time where I said, it's money is hard to keep. And guess what I created in my life? Exactly that result. So I'll end this entire live by saying, the words that come out of your life, or the words that come out of your mouth, they show where you stand in life. And some of you guys need to edit where you're standing in life. You need to clean up your mind and realize that where you stand in life needs to be power. It can't be scarcity. It needs to be power. You are not born, there's nobody who has been raped or hurt poorly or divorced that does not deserve the ultimate power in life. None of us don't deserve that. It's been written in the scriptures, we're supposed to wear nice clothes. And so many people are like, oh, that's a horrible thing. The love of money is evil. Yes, the love of money, not the authority over it. Okay, you're supposed to have authority over it. So many people don't know the word all the way through. They only know a portion of the story. Money is talked about over 2,000 times in the Bible, more than faith. So I'm just going to stand on point number three. As money is easy to make, it's our authority. It's our authority that stops us from having it. And I don't know about you, but I have dedicated my life to help people unleash from money having power over your life, because it should not have the power that it has over a lot of people's lives. And if I have anything to say about it, you want to tune into us on Shanda On Demand. You want to join us in any of our coaching programs. You can put the word coach below if you have any interest in talking to us about coaching programs or any of that. My point is that I am dedicated to being a voice in your life to be able to break you free of this area. And so this was Shanda On Demand. It was an absolute honor to be with you guys today. I'll be going live next week. We're going to be talking about an exciting topic. We're going to be talking about taxes. I know that sounds wild, but I'm bringing somebody to come talk about taxes next week, because a lot of people don't know how to keep their money. And there are things that you can do as a business owner that influence your taxes that you could be doing right now to be able to make sure that you keep more money in the bank. So I have a guest next week. He's extraordinary. I go to them for extra help in my own life, whether you have a little bit of money, a lot of money, or you intend to hit your crazy goals that are coming up this year. There is so much power in understanding the game of taxes instead of judging the wealthy that play the game. And a lot of people are misunderstood on how to do this. So the biggest taxpayers are the middle class because they don't have the people, they don't pay for the people to be on retainer to give them advice on how to keep more money. And so it's this awful income bracket of never having quite enough and being afraid to invest any of it. And what you don't realize is a lot of people are paying more taxes than they should be paying because they just don't know how to play the game. And so my intention next Tuesday is to show you how to play the game by bringing somebody who's going to help you figure out how to play the game as if you were investing huge amounts of money every single month to get that education. Who's excited about that? You absolutely should be, okay? Because it's not education that goes to most people who, if you're under the $5 or $6 million mark, okay? But it's applicable to everybody. It's applicable to everybody. So that's a wrap, you guys, on Shanda On Demand. I'll see you next Tuesday.